You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to RBLR Lightning. As always, my name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me is Jose Mataro, Matt Gannon. Guys, welcome back to the show. We are getting closer and closer to hockey season, and we've got some huge Lightning news to talk about today. It feels like forever since we've gotten to do this. I'm super excited to get to that, but right before we do that, first and foremost, Joe, how you doing today?
I'm not going to lie. I don't think I can remember the last time I was this excited for a show since the season ended. I'm pumped and I'm thrilled to get into some of the news that we have to share.
I was stoked for the show before the big news broke, and now that we have some actual honest Lightning news to talk about, I'm double excited. So I guess let's just hop right into it, Jake.
Well, I got a couple of things to take care of before we jump right into that. I know I'm teasing everybody with the big news. We got to talk. Everybody knows what it is, obviously. But first and foremost, just want to remind you guys, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. And if you could do us a huge favor, if you could go and vote for us in the Best of the Bay competition by Creative Loafing. The link is in the description. You can go check that out. All you have to do is head over to their website and you go to the entertainment section. You can go find Best Podcast. And if you can vote for RBLR, we would really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. If you've really been enjoying the content, head over there and cast us a vote for the Best of the Bay. So thank you guys so much. If you already have voted, we really do appreciate it. And again, if you missed out on any older episodes or you're looking forward to some new future episodes, like and subscribe right here on YouTube or follow us on social media at RBLR Sports or at RBLR Lightning if you're looking for the Lightning content. And now, without further ado, let's jump into all of the news that we got. So obviously the big news, Brandon Hagel has signed an 8-year extension with the Tampa Bay Lightning at an AAV of $6.5 million. And there's a couple of no trade clause and modified no trade clauses in here. So the first 2 years, there are no clauses to his contract. And then years 3 to 4, it's a full no trade clause. And then years 5 and 8 is a modified 16-team no trade clause. But Hagel, the big news, obviously, back for 8 years at an AAV of $6.5 million, which will kick in next season. Joe, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on the news of Hagel signing?
It's a lot of money, right? But when you think about a guy that can be playing in the top 3 potentially for a team, that's quite a value. And Hagel has really, really shown what a valuable part of the Lightning he can be. Jake, your prediction last season of him getting his 30 goals, I mean, he's definitely a guy that can do that again and again. And I think that it's going to show to be a really good value. And if it's not, the fact that he could be traded, later down the contract, it's just really smart moves by JBB. This is great. This should be, a day that all Bolts fans are rejoicing.
I was definitely very excited when you texted us in the morning, Jake. It was a great way to start my day with that. Took a little bit longer than I expected. I remember a couple months ago we were all doing the speculation. What's he posting? What's all the Instagram signs? Is he getting a deal done? Well, it was some quiet business, but it was some tidy business. I'm very, very happy with this contract. And it was pretty much exactly what I predicted, at least price-wise. I said around $6 to $6.5 million a couple months ago. But I wasn't expecting 8 years, and I'm not at all complaining about that. I've seen some mixed reviews on this contract so far. A lot of people are just haters. They're saying it's too long, too much money. He is such an underrated piece. He's such an underrated player in this league. I think it's not necessarily a steal, but I think it's just a very fair contract for both sides. Not one way or the other. It's not a steal, for the team. He didn't rob the Lightning blind. I think it's just a very good, solid contract. And it's not just we don't have him for 8 more years. We have him for 9 more years because he still is under contract for this upcoming season. So then the deal will kick in.
that's a huge thing when you consider it too, because I can't remember off the top of my head. What's his contract for this next year?
It's
1.5 million.
Okay, at 1 point, I was gonna say just under 2. Yeah, 1.5. You get him for 1.5, a guy that's worth 6.5 according to what you signed him for. I mean, this is great.
I mean, and Matt, you mentioned some mixed reviews about the contract. I saw also a couple people saying that too. But I mean, listen, at the end of the day, he's a very young player, a very talented player. He just had a huge season with the Lightning. And if he can continue to play and he doesn't have to hit 30 goals every single season, if he's just a solid player the way he's been for the next couple of years, hitting around that 20 goal mark and being a good takeaway player and maybe being good defensively, even though I know the advanced statistics say he's not great defensively and the whole debate about the takeaway stat. But at the end of the day, if he plays like he did even remotely close to last year, this contract is going to look like a steal in a couple of years. And just to have that stability for the Lightning and regrouping that core just a little bit since Alex Killorn is now gone, I think this is a huge signing. I love the contract. You guys know I'm a huge Brandon Hagel guy ever since I predicted his 30-goal season. I hope he can do it again. But, I mean, he's been getting better and better every year. So, who knows? Maybe he gets even higher from last year. That would be a tall order. But I absolutely love the contract. I'm super excited to see what he can do. Where do you guys think he slots into the lineup now? I mean, I think he's pretty confident that you could say he'd be a top 6 guy like he was last year for sure.
He absolutely is a top 6 guy. I personally, throughout all of last year when he was playing on the top line with Point and Kucherov, that's where I thought everybody looked their best. So I'd like to see him start the season on that first line with Point and Kucherov. Again, I just think that was the line that was the most formidable throughout the season last year. Of course, you're going to shake things up. He's a very versatile player, but that's where I see him being his best fit.
Yeah, I mean, straight up, I agree. That's the way you get the season started, too. Get those guys rolling, let their chemistry start to come together, and then you start pulling pieces out, moving them with other lines, and hopefully it's one of those contagious sort of things where everyone else can be, almost, I'm not going to say carried by one of those players, but enhanced by them at least.
Well, Hagel is sticking around for 8 more years, so I hope he's stocking up on all his Lightning gear. And if you at home need to stock up on your Lightning gear at home, I got a great spot for you. Head over to shop.rblrsports.com. You can check out the awesome team-inspired merch that we have over there. And it's not just the Lightning. It's the Rays, the Rowdies, the Bucks, you name it, we got it over there. And the best part for you listeners right here, you can use code BOLTS to get 10% off of your order. Links, as always, are in the description. Be sure to go over there and check out the awesome inspired merch and use code BOLT to get 10% off your order. All right, now the big part of the show that we have for you guys today. So for those of you who may not have seen, The Athletic did a post, and what they basically did is they ran through a bunch of different teams, and they tried to create the best possible, well, I don't want to say it's not a roster or a line, but a starting 5, we'll say, where basically it's a center, a left wing, a right winger, 2 defensemen, and then a goaltender. And here's the catch, though. All of the players' numbers had to add up to exactly 100. Not 99, not 101, not just less than 100, exactly 100. And I went out and I was checking it out and see some other people doing it. It seemed like a ton of fun. So we decided all 3 of us would go out and make sure the numbers added up to 100, and then we're going to show them off here live. We have not seen each other's teams as of yet, so we're going to go check them out. We're going to rate them. We're going to discuss them, and I highly encourage you guys to make your own teams as well. Have some fun with this. Tweet us at RBR Lightning and let us know what teams you come up with, what your thoughts on our teams. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to get into it. So without further ado, who are we going to start it off with, guys, today? Anybody really confident about their team that wants to start?
I think you do, Jake.
All right, let's do it. I'm excited for my team. I think I got a pretty solid one. All right, here's what I got for you guys. So Marty St. Louis starting off on my wing, number 26. Of course, you got to have him. He's one of the greatest Lightning forwards around. Vinny Lecavalier setting out this team. Obviously, another top-tier player. And then Dave Andrechuk running out my top 3 forwards. I mean, how about that forward core, guys? I mean, I really love that. It's a bunch of stud
Some great players
up front. Defense is where it gets a little interesting, I would say. Kubina with number 3, and yes, he did wear number 3, and I don't want to. It was only for a short while, but it helped get my numbers down and work everything out because I went a little high with the offense. And then Gudis is one of my biggest picks at number 7. I know a lot of people are not high on him all the time, but he's a feisty guy. He adds a little bit of feistiness to this team, so I like that. And then Nikolai Hobby-Bulin in net, the Bulin wall, making an appearance, and I love that pick personally for me because I can't put Andre Vasilevsky. His number is so high, and Hobby-Bulin I think is the next best option.
I like that team, Jake, mainly because mine is not very far off of it. You were about 2.5 players with that Kubina number 3 away. So I think it's a really good team you got there, but it's probably not as good as mine, just saying.
I think we should also say that for our picks, we internally we said that whatever player you use, if they wore 2 numbers, you get the vintage of whichever player they were with that number. For instance, Kucherov at one point wore 56. So if you grabbed a 56 Kucherov, he was only good for I think 6 goals that season, something like that, 6 or 7 goals that season. You're not getting your 100+ point scoring Kucherov. That said, I really do love Kubina, but when he wore number 3, he wasn't quite in his prime. It's you got 2 out of the 5 best offensive players all time for the Lightning with Marty and Vinny. Those guys, you just can't deny their skill level, and with such low numbers in their jerseys, they're almost shoo-ins, right, in order to make some of these lists.
Absolutely. I mean, how could you not put Vinny in your lineup to be that huge start? I love Dave Andreychuk too. I mean, I know he played a lot of his career, elsewhere. He was only late with the Lightning, but he was still huge for the Bolts, being a huge net front presence. So I think he's great there, and with Vinny and Marty on the wing, I absolutely love that line. I got a lot of the 04 guys for the 04 Cup team. I will say this: I don't remember us talking about using the guys from their. Listen, I think I was just too smart for these guys to pick Kubina at 3. They weren't thinking about it, so they're trying to bring my team down by saying, "Oh, you can only look at him when he wore the number 3." But it's all right. I still think my team is very solid because even if the defense is a little shaky, you got the Bulin wall in net to stop them.
I'd say I like it, man. You get Marty and Vinny flying around out there, and then you put Andy in front of the net, and man, in tight with his size, he was one of the all-time greats with picking up garbage goals, screening goalies, and just being a menace in front of the crease.
All right, Matt, I'll ask you this. So for my team, if you had to give a rating, kind of forward, defense, goalie, what would you go with?
For each individual rating?
So just give me an overall grade for each forwards, defense, and goalie.
Okay. 9 out of 10 with your forward group. I can't really make any kind of criticism there. You got a little creative with your defense there, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna throw too much shade at it because mine isn't very different. And Hobby-Bulin, I think that's a very nice choice to round out all the edges. So with defense, I'm gonna go with the number 3 Kubina. I'm gonna go with the 6 out of 10 there, and
I'll take that.
And I got to go with an.
Don't you do it, Matt?
I'll give you an 8 out of 10 for the goaltending. I think my choice might be just a tad bit better, but that's just personally subjective.
All right, Joe. What about you? What do you got for me?
Offensively, I think I got to dock a couple of points for Andy just because he is a little bit one-dimensional, doesn't fly around the time that he was on the Lightning. So I'd say a 7 out of 10 up front with him being. The harsher marks. Defense, I'd probably say that's also a solid 7. I mean, Kubina still was a very good defensive defenseman. Gudas, of course, loves to bash bodies, but one of the downsides with having both of them on the ice is they are both defensive defensemen. So, you're going to lack a little bit offensively there. And then Hobby-Bulin, I think I would go even lower and say a 7 because during the regular season, he was going split games with Graham. He showed up big time in the playoffs and helped us win a cup. But overall, as a goalie, he wasn't our best. He wasn't our second best. And I would even argue that he probably wasn't the 3rd best goalie that the Lightning have had.
Wow,
he's speechless.
I'm Matt. You might have to take over for the rest of the show. I can't believe what just happened here? I mean, how dare you insult the legendary Nikolai Hobby-Bulin, the Bulin Wall, which is a huge reason, one of the biggest reasons the Lightning got their first ever Stanley Cup. Nikolai Hobby-Bulin.
Not disagreeing.
If you look at his stats, I mean, obviously when he's with the Lightning, when he was at his best, he was a menace out there. And if it wasn't for Andre Vasilevsky, I think Ben Bishop did break a couple of them late, but he would still have a lot of Lightning franchise records. So to call him the third best goalie, I can get behind the second because obviously Andre Vasilevsky is the best. But to throw him down like third, I think that's a little wrong there, Joe. I mean, I can't believe it. I'm shocked. Well, let us know of our listeners.
Light me up in the comments. Light me up in the comments. That's all I got to say.
Joe's embracing his villain role on this show, man. I
mean, he really is. All right, we've taken a look at my team. We're going to go now and take a look at Matt's team. Let's see, Matt, what you got. And then when Eureka throws it up here, I want you to give us the explanation for it.
All right. Starting us off is with Braden Point. I think I had him slotted in at center, and I threw Lecalier to the wing, and Andrew Chuck. So I got two out of the same three that you had. I mixed in a little bit of the newer generation, and I went with the same defense core with a little tweak. I guess you kind of tweaked it more than I did, but Kubina and Gudis, the same thing, and Big Ben in the back. I think he gets kind of overshadowed a little bit. But I still do think he's the second best goalie the Lightning have ever had. Sorry, Jake, kills me to say it, but I let Joe do all the explaining just before.
Well, I mean, you replaced Marty with Pointer, right? And both of those guys have extremely similar attributes to them. They both are very, very fast, explosive, dynamic players, and how much they kind of mirror each other is funny. I would say that defensively, both have just as much prowess. Martin might be a little bit better defensively. I mean, we were looking at stats before. Didn't he have something like how many shorthanded goals did we say he had one season alone, or is that an overall record? Regardless, I think the number was 8, and that might just be overall. But I mean, he was, really, really great defending as well, and point is too. So I'd say that those two are a wash. You obviously have Vinny and Andy, so I think that for me that pretty much brings them to the exact same level as Jake's offensive ability there.
Okay, so what would you rate it? The same?
I think I think so. I mean, right there, that's another 3 out of the third out of the 5 best offensive players for the Lightning. Obviously, Stamkos and Kuch have numbers so high that you can't possibly field them in this team. But between Point, Vinny, and Marty, I mean, geez, that's some of the best players of all time for the Lightning right there. So I think, yeah, I mean, a 7 just like his.
Okay, where do you put the defense?
Defense gets stepped up now because that's the proper Kubina.
Same player.
And you're going to give me another bonus for the goaltending, right?
You're definitely getting a bonus for goaltending because I think that he's an 8.5 to a 9, and according to the stats, isn't he still have the best single season save percentage and single season goals against average? Even better than Vasi?
He does have the goals against average, and I'm looking now, and he...
I think Bish has a better franchise save percentage, but maybe not single season.
I think single season, he's got one season he had where
he does have a save percentage record, 921.
And it was the same season with his goals against record. And that, I mean, if that's the Ben Bishop you get, I mean, he's got to be a 9.
I'll take it.
Well, I'll say this first of all. Well, hang on now. I love Ben Bishop. I was a huge Ben Bishop guy. I wish we could have kept him for longer. Obviously, Andre Vasilevsky kind of sped up his time with the Lightning when Bishop was the best goalie since Nikolai Hobby-Bulin, and we did not have a lot of great goaltenders in between those two. So I love Ben Bishop. I got nothing against Bishop whatsoever. I think, Matt, our defense, I think we were smart. We both smart, picked the same players. I think we're on the same level there. Now, I will say this, because you guys are giving me such a hard time about the Kubina 3 versus 13. Matt, you technically have 2 centers on your team. So I think you lose some points there. I mean, you don't have an extra winger to help you out there. So maybe the chemistry is a little bit off because you got two guys who are known for
fair.
playing center.
Intangibles.
Now, listen, to be fair to Matt, the game of hockey today, you really don't have centers, left wingers, and right wingers. Guys kind of just play the forward a lot. Heck, there's a lot of players who are listed on Cap Friendly as every single position on the forward line. So a lot of guys can do multi-purpose, but I do think there should be some points lost for that.
Especially on the Lightning, man. There's no real centers. It seems like everybody has a different,
The center takes the face-off draw, and at that, depending on which side the ice goes to, they switch to F1, 2, and 3 almost instantaneously.
So it's a draw.
All right, yeah, I guess we could call it a draw. That's fair. And Eureka throwing up the messages in Discord in the back here, right here. Let's take a look. I haven't even seen the change numbers. Can we use them before? Jake might disagree. Oh, that's absolutely correct. So we did talk about it. Joe did say that the player should be the vintage player, but I don't know if I fully agree to that. Now, Eureka, you had that one ready to go. Where's the one about us saying that you had to do a center, left winger, and right winger? Because Matt broke that rule.
There's a reason. There's a reason why that was the only one he could queue up.
Either way, Matt, I mean, our teams are very similar at the end of the day. I mean, I like that you put in Point. Honestly, I think I would maybe do the same and throw Point in over Marty, and then you can get to 13 Kubina. So I like that you did that. We got very similar teams. I think our biggest difference, I mean, even the goaltenders, though, Ben Bishop and Nikolai Hopbulen were both fantastic goaltenders for the Lightning at the time.
I will say that to Jake's credit, he damn near has exactly the 0-3-4 cup team, and they did win a cup. So, I mean, there's probably something to that, too.
You're just backtracking.
It's hard for me to give exact ratings, but, I mean, solid 7 out of 10 for the forwards. I'll go 6 out of 10 for defense because I think, just like me, I think we're both weak on the defensive side of things. And I'll give you I'm going to go 8 out of 10 for the goaltenders because I think Bishop's an 8 out of 10. I think Nikolai Hopbulen's a 9 out of 10, and the Vasti would be a 10 out of 10, but you can't get them all on the roster, unfortunately. So I'm going with 8 out of 10 for the goaltender.
I'm going to change my ranking for all of yours to 1 out of 10.
Wouldn't that impact yours too, though?
No. Completely different.
All right, last but not least, we've got Joe's team. Joe, take it away. What do you got for us?
All right, I decided to go a little bit of a different route. I wanted a more balanced approach to offense and defense, and for that reason, I put Braden Point. Obviously, is huge offensively. He can also backcheck really well. Next to him, he's got Miller, JT Miller, when he was on the team. Now, when Miller was on the team, he wasn't the 99-point getter that he was when he left and went to Vancouver, but he still was pretty effective for the team, and he's also a sort of guy that can dig in the corners and set some some plays. So I felt like he would work well with somebody that can finish like Point. Then you had Brad Richards, which was one of the best two-way centers for the Lightning all time, and there's no denying how good he was at setting up plays as well. On defense, I decided to try finding a way to fit McDonough into my lineup. I felt that this guy did so much for our cup-winning teams, and one of the best shutdown defensemen of all time. If it wasn't for Hedman, he probably would have had a Norris, because he played so well, but was overshadowed. And then I have Dan Boyle, who's also a decent defenseman, but he was also a very, very mobile and offensive defenseman. I remember there was a game that I actually went to against the Rangers, and he had a hat trick as a defenseman. I mean, when's the last? Actually, I think that's the only time that's happened for the Lightning, right? Hedman's never had a hat trick. So I put him because that will bump the offensive numbers a little bit. And then in order to fit all of it under our, not a salary cap, but our jersey cap, Brian Elliott, who also has some decent numbers, albeit not as many games played, and that would definitely be my weak spot. He does have a couple of cups too, though. So,
Oh man, that's yeah, he does have a couple of cups, but I mean,
I know he did not get
throw
in
that
net.
in there at
He
the
did not
end.
get in net.
Wait.
Listen,
No, Brian Elliott doesn't have any cups. Curtis McElhaney.
Oh,
does.
Max got them both.
Well,
Oh,
okay. Well, if you're right, he didn't win one with the Lightning.
You're right. All right. So at any rate, he was basically the only way I can make it all work because he was wearing number 1 for the Lightning. So I know that's where I'm suffering on this lineup.
All these backup goaltenders, we've had such a crazy rotation over the last couple of years. They all start to run together a little bit. Joe, I do like that you went a much different route than most people would have, because most people are throwing either Bishop or Hobby Bull in as their goaltender because they're the two of the top goaltenders for the Lightning, and they have relatively low numbers. You got Braden Point, Miller. Miller is an interesting one to me because, I mean, he had some great years with the Lightning. I thought he got a little bit better offensively wise with Vancouver, even though he has all that drama going on there, but still a solid player. I like Brad Richards, going to get that veteran presence there. I love that you put in McDonough. I think that's my favorite one. I think your defense is the strongest point on your team. McDonough and Boyle, I both like both those a lot. Your goaltender is definitely the weakest point. Elliott has some good in him, but I mean, you're taking him at a very old age, so it's definitely the weakest point. But I do like your defense a lot, which is where I was at my weakest.
Yeah, I do. I agree with what you're saying, Jake. I think the defense is really kind of the hallmark of your team there. I really like the addition of McDonough. And me personally, when I was trying to put my team together, I was trying to find a way to fit McDonough. I haven't played with the idea of Shattenkirk. I actually really liked how he played here too. But with 27 and 22 there, you've got kind of the best of both worlds. The arguably still maybe one of the best defensive defensemen in the game, and another mobile, puck-moving, offensive-minded defenseman there. Of course, goaltending, yeah, that's where you're going to take a hit. And your forward group, I think it's still very respectable, but not that it lacks the star power me and Jake's had, but it feels like Braden Point's going to be the guy that's not dragging the rest along, but he's the biggest, flashiest one of the bunch.
Well, Brad Richards had 100-point seasons. I mean, he's no slouch offensively. If anybody's dragging, Miller was the one that I struggle with trying to, maybe Corey Perry, but he was too old. Sean Bergenheim, more 10, but he didn't have the raw skill that Miller had.
It's definitely the best 10 you could pick. That's no doubt about that. But when I don't know. I'm maybe being overly critical, maybe being very biased. That's no lie. But I do think me and Jake's forward groups were better. But the defense is no slouch at all. That's what really what takes both our teams down, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the defense is. If we had to go ratings, man, ratings are tough. But I would probably go I'll go at 9 out of 10 for your defense. I think your defense is very solid. I'm going like a 5 out of 10 for the goaltender. That's probably being it's not. I think it's probably about right. Then for your forward group, I would go 7 out of 10. I mean, I think it's still very, very solid. Matt, what about you?
Because you took all my answers, I'm gonna stay with you for 9 out of 10 on the defense. 5 out of 10 for the goaltending, and just to be different and be controversial, 6 out of 10 for the forward core.
My forward core is definitely built more as shut down and score rather than pure goal scoring. So it's definitely not as offensive. You have to got to protect Elliott.
Yeah.
Elliott had some games where he was fantastic, but he also had some games where he let in a ton of goals. So it's like it kind of depends on what kind of Brian Elliott are we getting here at the end of the day. All right, let's do this. Let's try to select. So I think we're going to do like a little bit of an award show at this point. Who had the best offense, best defense, and then best overall? And I think we'll start with best offense here because I think that's the toughest one. I think it's going to go in between me or Matt, and our producer Eureka's got some stats for us. He went and did a bunch of math for us and added up all the point shares for each of the players. And I had the best offense at 170.3. Matt's offense was 144.6. So it seems like that change of point to Marty actually did make a big difference, which is interesting. And then Joe had 108.2 for the offense. So, that kind of makes sense to me.
What I think the difference between you and I is that Marty had a much longer career in Tampa here. Of course, Braden Point's quickly catching up to him, but he's got definitely a bit more games played, a little bit more time here. It's still definitely a coin flip, but I do think that is probably I think that's probably the stat that Eureka drew up for us, the point shares. It's actually a very good way to tell. I think it's accurate is the word I'm grasping for.
Joe, any thoughts on the point share rankings there?
I mean, it does sound about what like I was saying before. You have Marty, Vinny, and Andy who all actually played together, so that little bonus points for chemistry, and I mean Marty's got the numbers that Point doesn't quite have yet, and I think Point will get there. So edging it out makes sense to me.
All right, here are the stats for the best defense now. So same thing, point shares. Okay, and this surprises me as I'm looking at now that Eureka just sent in. The best defense goes to Matt at 61.5. I'm technically at a 50.6, even though I have the same players, but I'll take it. And Joe is actually the worst when it comes to point shares at 44.8. That is surprising to me.
That is weird. A lot of the times people will say, "Oh, this team looks great on paper," but that's why you play the games. So I guess my defense looks good on paper, but I still give Joe's the edge there. So that's why they play the games.
So Joe, how does it feel to have the best ranked defense by us, and then the point shares say completely otherwise?
I mean, it's interesting. From an eye test, I would have thought that my lineup would be better, but at the same rate, I mean, Kubina was so good. When it came to shutdown, and you had Gudis on there as well, right? That was your other. I mean, Gudis can bash some bodies and clog the front of the net, not allowing guys to block shots and not allow guys to get there. So it's not really surprising. I mean, these are some outstanding players that played for the Lightning. Disappointed that mine didn't score as high, of course, but good on you, Matt, for assembling such a great team.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we are going now to the best overall team, and we'll go this time from third place to first place to create a little bit of a drama here at the end. So in third place with 153 point shares is Joe with 153. So, Joe, I give you a lot of credit for doing something different and changing it up there, but 153, still pretty solid. In second is Matt at 206.1, which gives me the victory at 255.6. Pretty solid, I think, for the win there, 255. Honestly, I'm surprised Joe's is as low as it is. I thought it would be a lot closer than that.
Yeah, that is pretty weird. I want to call shenanigans on these stats. Actually, I'm just kidding. No, this was a really fun experiment to do. Jake, do you have Eureka's team and where he finished?
I was going ready to his team because he sent me his as well. By the way, Eureka's point shares for his overall team was 266.6, which beats mine out too. And here it is. He just put it up on screen for us. So Marty St. Louis, Braden Point, and Alex Killorn as his forwards, Kubina and Boyle as the defenseman, and then Brian Elliott as the goaltender. So, I mean,
Eureka, that lineup is sick.
That's his defense is fantastic. You got Point and Marty, which is great. Killorn, I mean, he's huge player for the Lightning, even though he's probably not as good as I think some of the other guys. And then Elliott, I mean, I think, again, that's obviously the weak point, but you got such a solid defense and then a very solid forward core as well that it almost makes up for it.
So did his overall team beat yours out then?
It did. 266.6 compared to my 255. So a little bit closer, but he beat me by a good, 11 points there.
Could you imagine Pointer and Marty just flying around out there? I mean, even if you had the puck, they'd take it off of you so fast. Next thing you know, one's fleeing the zone and getting a breakaway pass. I mean, just the two of them on the ice at the same time, the weapons that you have out there.
Yeah,
that would be a crazy duo. I would love to be able to see that in action. That actually is giving me such great daydreams right now.
Oh yeah, and it's a beautiful mix too of the old Cup players and the new Cup players as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's solid team overall. Let us know in the comments what you guys came up with, what you think about each of the teams. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you were able to come up with, because it's hard. I mean, you start doing it, you're like, all right, this shouldn't be too bad. You throw a couple players in there, next thing you know, you're like, oh wait, I'm at 101. I got to take one off, add one somewhere else. But there's no position here, because forward wise, I think the lowest you can go is like 15. Vinny helps out a lot, obviously, with being at 4. But honestly, the hardest thing is that you can't use a lot of the star players like we mentioned earlier. Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Sergachev, all those guys you can't, unless you want to use 56 Kucherov, but you can't use those guys because they're all too high. I think Hedman you might be able to slip in there if you went really low.
I'm a little surprised that that no one tried out a Marty Point LeCavier. I thought that for the forwards, because you could fit those numbers in.
I played around with it, and I just couldn't get my defense and goaltending where I wanted it, so I just went with the most balanced team I could. I spent a good amount of time on this, probably well more than I should have.
It's fun to do. I really encourage anyone to try it.
It definitely was. I thought it kind of was, like, when you first brought it up, Jake, I was like, it's kind of cheesy. I don't really, see the appeal of it. And then I started trying to do it and trying and experimenting with different players. It was really fun. And the fact that some of our all-time greats like Kucherov and Stamkos and Vazzy and Sergachev and Hedman are all those 70-plus numbers and makes it really hard. It kind of evens the playing field. Of course, you got some of those lower number powerhouses like Point, Vinny, and Marty. And I think that's what kind of makes this a very entertaining game to play, actually.
And honestly, to be honest with you guys, I threw Gudas in there just because his number fit. He wasn't my first choice for defense, but I was like, all right, his works, and he was kind of a feisty guy. I think that could work in there, but he was definitely not my first choice. And I mean, it's definitely tough. To be honest with you, I forgot about Andreychuk for a while. I had somebody else, and I'm trying to remember who I had before, and then I realized, wait a minute, Dave Andreychuk's 25. How can you not have Dave Andreychuk? He was a top forward for the Lightning, so. And I remember looking at it too. Goaltenders, is there any other goaltender that you could throw in there? I mean, it's got to be either Bishop or Nikolai Hoppe-Bulin, right?
Yeah. I mean, even if you wanted to try on Mike Smith, that's 41, and you're starting to get into, a lot of points there, right? wrapped into one guy.
There are a lot of goaltenders that wore number 1. In fact, that's the only time that when that number is worn, number 1 is by a goaltender. A lot of defensemen at 2 and 3. So the defenseman and goaltender you can really play with low. It's the forwards that kind of make it, I think, the most difficult, because there's not a lot of low numbers. You got Vinny and Marty, but after that, it's mid-20s with the exception of Vinny.
I had the hardest time figuring out my defenseman. I kind of knew what I wanted in my forward core, but with the defenseman, it was kind of hard to pick out somebody who was a very consistent, good guy. And I kind of did the same thing with Gudas. He was kind of the only number that would really fit. It was either between him or Hayden Fleury. And I was like, Gudas is definitely much a more established player. I'm gonna go with him. So
yeah,
that was where I struggled, was definitely with defense.
Yeah, that was a good choice.
I will throw in this note real quick from Eureka. He said that if I was allowed to take Kubina as Kubina with the Lightning and not just when he wore number 3, I would have won the whole thing. I would have beaten out Eureka as well. So just throwing that out there. If you change the rules to that, I do get the win. But at number 3, I'm behind Eureka.
You ever heard the phrase "moving the goalposts"?
Well, Matt, that's what you did to fit in your forward core. No, so I don't want to hear it from you. Joe can do it. He put together a solid team as well, though. So last thing, I want to go back to this Nikolai Hoppe-Bulin, Ben Bishop talk, because Nikolai Hoppe-Bulin, for those of you that don't know, is one of my favorite Lightning players of all time. Truck are my 2 favorites. So I have a little bit of bias when it comes to Nikolai Hoppe-Bulin, but I went to Hockey Reference and I compared both their stats with the Lightning. And I will say, I think Ben Bishop has a little bit of Ottawa and Kings mixed in here because he had those split seasons with both teams. But every category, Ben Bishop does have the better numbers. The only one that he does not have is obviously championships, because Hobby Bullen was able to win one of the Stanley Cups in 2004. I think the question is, do you look at is this regular season statistics, or do you include what they were able to do in the playoffs as well?
Well, that's the fun of it, right? Kind of use that as an arguing point one way or another. And also, you know, man, if Bish could have just been healthy, think about how much better things could have been, even when it came to potentially winning a cup.
In 2015, I mean, 2015, healthy Bishop probably wins a championship, and he's one of the, who knows where Lightning is. That's a video for another day, going down the rabbit hole of what if Bishop stayed healthy and what would have happened with the goaltending situation. But I think that's going to do it for us in this episode. Again, let us know, guys, what your thoughts are on our teams. What you guys come up with your teams, we'd love to hear it at RBLR Sports or at RBLR Lightning. Don't forget to like and subscribe right here on YouTube so you don't miss out on future episodes. I'll talk to you guys next time. Go Bolts.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.